When I first arrived in New York for my month-long stay, I was completely in my element. I loved the energy, the walking, and the little routines I was building for myself. And honestly, I never really got homesick in the traditional sense. I FaceTimed my kids and grandkids almost every day, so emotionally, I still felt connected to home. But somewhere during that month, I started realizing I was missing something else entirely. And it wasn't people, it was my stuff. Hi, I'm Michelle, and on my channel we talk about creating a peaceful, confident life after 50, especially if you're living alone, traveling solo, or navigating retirement. It wasn't expensive or luxury things I was missing, it was my normal everyday things. The funny part is I had actually stayed in this exact Airbnb 8 years ago and absolutely loved it. Back then it felt cozy and cared for and comfortable, but this time, shortly after I arrived, I found out that the owner was selling the unit. He told me there might occasionally be showings as long as they didn't interfere with my plans, which honestly was fine. But I could also tell he had mentally checked out of the Airbnb business just a little bit. The apartment technically had all of the necessities, but only barely. At first I thought, oh, it's just fine, I'm only here for a month. But then little things started adding up. There was no hairdryer, and I thought there would be because there had been one before, so I didn't pack mine. Then I had to go buy one. There was barely any toilet paper or paper towels, and the coffee pot looked like it hadn't been cleaned in about 8 years. And I'm not exaggerating. I looked inside of it and immediately thought, absolutely not. So instead, I went out and bought a tea kettle and pour-over coffee setup and a coffee grinder because I knew that would make my mornings feel more like mine. At home, I have this really nice milk frother, and most mornings I make myself a mocha. It's just part of my morning routine. But while I was in New York, every morning I just drank plain black coffee because I just didn't have the setup I was used to. Now, was that a tragedy? Absolutely not. I was in New York City for a month, living this incredible experience. But it was interesting how much I noticed those tiny missing comforts. There was no toaster, there were no storage containers for leftovers, and I couldn't find travel sizes of the hair products that I actually like using. And I didn't bring my hair straightener because I figured I would just buy one while I was in New York. But after already having bought the hair dryer and coffee setup and extra household things, I thought, you know what? Just forget it. So the entire month, I never really felt fully put together. And honestly, that sounds so superficial when I say it out loud. But sometimes when you're already trying to get used to your new environment, you want to step out in the best version of yourself. Also, I really wished I had brought my portable speaker because listening to music from your phone just isn't the same. At home, music fills my apartment. It changes the mood of the day. And suddenly I realized how much those little sensory things mattered. And the funny thing is, I wasn't unhappy there at all. I loved my time in New York and I would do it again in a heartbeat. But I found myself longing for these random little ordinary objects from home. And it made me curious, why is that? Why can you be in one of the most exciting cities in the world and still find yourself thinking about your favorite coffee mug or your own pillow or a specific product that you use? So I started reading about it a little bit, and honestly, the psychology behind it made so much sense. Apparently, psychologists believe that our everyday objects become extensions of ourselves. They're tied to our identity, our routines, and our sense of safety. And once I read that, I thought, wow, that is exactly what this felt like. Because my pour-over coffee setup wasn't really about coffee. It was about my morning ritual. It was about waking up slowly, making my drink the way I like it, and easing into the day in a familiar way. At home, I can do it without thinking about it. It's automatic. But in a new environment, suddenly every tiny thing requires thought and effort. Where do I buy groceries? How much can I carry back? Do I take the subway, bus, or taxi? Where do I throw my trash away? What stores have the products that I need? And when you're traveling long term, your brain is actually working harder all day long because nothing is fully automatic anymore. At home, your routines conserve mental energy. You move through your space almost on autopilot. But in a new environment, even simple tasks require decision making. And I think those familiar objects become comforting because they reduce some of that mental load. That portable speaker wasn't just about music. It represented atmosphere and comfort and normalcy. Even the scent of your own products matter more than we realize. Certain smells immediately make us feel grounded because they're connected to memory and identity. When you live alone, your home becomes very personalized. Every object, routine, and tiny system in your house exists because you created it that way. Your home starts functioning almost like an external nervous system. It regulates you without you even realizing it. You know where everything is, how the light hits the room in the morning, which blanket you reach for at night, the exact mug you always use, and the sounds your home makes. And when you leave all of that behind, even temporarily, you realize how much those little things support your daily emotional life. I also think this is why people sometimes feel emotional returning home after long travel. There's actually a psychological phenomenon called jamais vu, which is sort of the opposite of déjà vu. Instead of something unfamiliar feeling familiar, it's when familiar things suddenly feel strange. And I think I experienced a little bit of that coming home from New York. Because after being gone for a month, I noticed things in my own apartment that I normally completely overlook. I appreciated my routines, my kitchen more, my own bed. Even making coffee in my own space felt oddly comforting. It's almost like leaving home temporarily resets your awareness of it. One thing I've come to appreciate on this trip is how much a cozy home can mean to us, even when we might not always realize it. There's this tendency to minimize those desires sometimes, like we're supposed to say, oh, none of that matters. I can adapt to anything. And yes, adaptability is important, but comfort matters too. The tiny things that make your life feel peaceful really do matter. That doesn't mean you shouldn't travel or experience new things. Honestly, if anything, this trip reinforced how much I love solo travel and slow travel. But it also reminded me that home is not just a location. Home is sensory, ritual, identity, and a collection of ordinary things that support your nervous system every single day. And sometimes you don't fully realize how meaningful those things are until you spend a month without them. What's funny is that I can already tell if I ever do another long New York stay or anywhere, I'll pack differently. I'll absolutely bring my speaker, and I'll also inquire if the kitchen is fully equipped for someone who cooks all of their meals. Let me know in the comments if you've ever experienced this feeling. Thank you so much for watching.